The forests of our country are becoming depleted, and the climatic changes that are imminent in the near future will not lend themselves to reforestation. The species of trees in the northern part of our country should be reseeded in other areas in the south in a climate-controlled atmosphere to save the species. The elm, the oak, and most hardwood trees are in danger. These can be grown in climate-controlled nurseries to begin their growth. They can then be transplanted back into the northern areas of our country after a period of 5 years, and they will then survive. But natural reforestation will not be able to take place due to the climate changes that will happen. The climate change that will harm them and is harming them is drought, periods of drought that will not allow the roots of the trees to receive the necessary moisture. This will be due to many reasons, one of which is a distortion in the natural availability of reserve underground water supplies. These underground streams should be mapped, and it will readily be understood what is happening. At the same time that these are drying up, the natural amount of rainfall will be decreasing in the northern areas of our country and increasing in the southern areas. Space stations will cause weather disturbances because they present a blockage of the flow of the jet stream of air currents. This will happen with each space station put into orbit. These stations need to be outside the Van Allen belt to keep the weather disturbances at a minimum. The planet is a living entity and has a nervous system as such. Its nervous system is comprised of topographical phenomena and data such as rivers and mountain ranges and so on. When a mountain is disturbed, believe it or not, the nervous system of the whole planet is disturbed. When a river is dammed up, it is as though stopping the flow of energy to certain nerve trunk lines of the planet. Why doesn't some scientist understand this? Unused land should be used for a homestead project. This unused government land could be allocated in small family garden plots to those in overcrowded slum areas and cities, and a homestead project be begun. It is so sad to see huge acres of land idle and unproductive because of greed and materialistic goals of government officials in all countries. Miniaturization of all crops will ease the problem of feeding the world, and experimentation with musical vibration to accomplish this should be started now. The system of pre-hatching of seeds needs to be explored also. There is no need for hunger on our rich planet. It has an overabundance of what is needed to produce plenty of food for all who live on the planet. The land of North America is much more abundant than most others on Earth. It is in the distribution of the resources wherein the trouble lies. There are poor people in South America without tools such as rakes and hoes. They make items to use as best they can out of branches, or get down on their hands and knees and scrape a hole with their hands to plant their seeds. At the same time, there are those in more affluent countries who will throw away a rake with one prong bent, or toss a hoe in the trash because they got a little splinter in their hands from the handle. There are many other discarded items buried in trash dumps each day that would change the lives of those in other countries. The problem is in distribution, not only of second-hand items, but also of all other resources. The new government will consist of 5 divisions. There will be a medical division, a judicial division, a city-state division, a country division, and a world division. The highest authority would be the country division, the next the judicial division, next the city-state division, then the world division, and then the medical division. Different subjects will be handled at different levels by different divisions. For instance, education would be handled through the high school level by city-state division, and the college levels would be handled by the country division. The specialized professions would be handled by the world division. This would include the medical professions and the platform schools of politics. Other things, such as prisons, would follow the same lineup. The medical profession will also be handled much the same way. Social Security would also follow a pattern. Social Security cannot be touched at this time, although there are some ideas on what would be better in this field than Social Security, but it cannot start with those who are already into the program. It must start with the beginning workers. Up to a certain age, it will come from the city-state, prorated according to which city-state the income was earned in. For instance, if a man worked in Chicago from the age of 20 to 40, and then moved to Denver, Colorado, and worked the next 20 years, and then 5 years in Arizona, The retirement income would come from these three states, city-state, prorated, of course, until a certain age. At this time, it would start coming from the country division until another certain age, and then it would come from the world system. What all this amounts to is a graduation process throughout all the different divisions of people being city-state citizens, and then progressing to country citizens, and then finally to world citizens. Along the way, they have a judicial system to appeal to for everything except medical problems, and a medical system to appeal to for health-related problems. The judicial system would be made up of a cluster of cells that would actually be arms or branches of the main judicial system. For instance, cases of murder would be a separate arm of appeal. The medical system would also be divided into different branches based on physical, emotional, and mental problems. Problems of animals would be another branch, and problems with plants another branch. This last would include drug abuse and also natural disaster problems such as flooding and fires and pestilence and so on. Anything that ruins crops. Problems with reforestation would fall under this branch. This will give you an idea of how this could work. The party system should be removed and replaced with a system of platforms that one must progress up through from the bottom to the top. This way, no one would be at the top if he had not climbed all the rungs of the ladder. It would be mandatory for any who wants to serve in government. Entrance into the school of platforms would require certain college degrees that are not offered anywhere at the moment. These are circle degrees where one concentrates, after the first 2 years of general study, on all the facets of government. This does not mean dealing with the history of the political system. This history will not be taught at all. The new studies will begin from the point where humanity is now. As a matter of fact, at times the study of history is greatly overdone in our high schools and colleges. A bare knowledge of the history of any subject is needed, but it does not need to be belabored, because this fogs the brain cells and prevents new concepts and ideas from flowing in. Regardless, the colleges will handle the entrance to this course of platforms very tightly. As a matter of fact, one will not be able to apply for this part of the college. One will have to enter college as a general education student, and during his first 2 years will be evaluated, and if deemed material suitable for this special course, will be asked to enter this school. It will be set up that this degree will serve as entry to any profession in the social sciences realm. Not technology or business, of course, because down the road, many of those who do enter the school of platforms will be removed or eliminated from it, or will eliminate themselves from it. It will be a grueling course of subject matter, and one must be dedicated to serving humanity, or he will never make it through. The setup of this way of government will mean that those graduating from the top platform will be those who are voted on for the presidency of our country. By the time they reach this top platform, there will be very few left who make it into the pool to choose a president from. For anyone considering going into politics at this time, we deem it wise to prepare yourself as though taking a college course in the real political arena by doing investigative work on issues, not personalities. Know the issues inside and out. What is needed is a totally new political party. It should be based on new thought, its platform based on spiritual truths. It will need to have a loud spokesvoice in the political arena, as well as in all other areas of organized existing social structures. Anyone considering doing this should take heed of the following. Many public concerns are in trouble, such as libraries and symphony orchestras. Perhaps by focusing on helping these organizations, museums, art galleries, anything to do with the arts, and showing them how to better manage not only their finances but their resources of available help through charity or non-profit organizations, would be a way to earn a name for themselves of being well liked as one who can instigate reform. They will be gaining an invaluable reputation for themselves for what is ahead in the future political arena for them. 5 main issues that need to be focused on are: Number 1, education. Number 2, medical aid, including insurance concepts, and also needs to cover drug control. Number 3, minority age groups. I won't say senior citizens because the time will come when they will outnumber the teenagers, and then the teenagers will need to have a spokesvoice looking after their interests. What is needed is a fair and equitable self-regulating system of aid to any minority group. Number 4, agriculture, and number 5, the National Arts Program. The budget is a big mess, as you all realize, as far as to what can be done at this point in the real world. To start with, there are too many programs being funded by taxes. People have become dependent on these programs. There are some of these programs that it would be cruel and inhuman to stop at this time. These are programs dealing with elderly people. Programs that can be stopped are a lot of the unnecessary research that's being funded from the tax dollar that should be funded by private money. Tax dollars that come in must be used for humans. One of the rules for focus to begin right now is that no tax dollar should be used for any program that is not benefiting humans. It should be done away with. Any programs aiding children must be our first priority. Our second priority must be any programs aiding our senior citizens. The third program then, as far as tax dollars, would be the crippled or handicapped. Crime is becoming rampant due to drug usage. Drug usage is becoming rampant due to those wanting to escape from responsibility. Escape from responsibility is becoming rampant because of the tyranny of the law and legal system in our country. The legal system and the laws and lawyers are becoming more active and domineering because of crime. It is a self-feeding system, and as all self-feeding systems, it needs to have a brake put on it at some point. Different ideas need to be brainstormed as to what place in the links between these factors the stopgap should be put. Let's take the first problem, that of crime becoming rampant because of the need for drugs. Our government has tried every way they can think of to stop drug trafficking. Nothing has worked. Perhaps the answer is legalization. This would certainly stop the huge amounts of money that exchange hands. This would stop the high street cost and therefore the need to commit crimes to get the money to buy drugs. This is the only way to gain control of the drug problem is to lose control. Sometimes this is what it takes. This would put the problem directly where it belongs, each person taking direct responsibility from the age of 12 on as to whether he wanted to live his life in a drug haze or be completely free of mind-altering contaminants. The next link in the chain is that of crime to obtain the money to buy the drugs. Drugs are slave masters. They entail a loss of freedom because of the ability to be addictive. Crime can also be addictive. Once a person gets away with a crime, it becomes a powerful stimulus in his mind to know, or think anyway, that he has outwitted those seemingly much more mentally powerful than he is. Therefore, those trying to stop crime need to learn to think like a criminal. There needs to be schooling given that gives the law enforcement officers the ability to think like a criminal. There also has to be a powerful goal to be attained. One suggestion would be financial bonuses for law enforcement officers for directly being responsible for catching criminals. Where would the reward money come from? There are many sources. One suggestion would be from minor traffic violations. In other words, an increase in minor traffic offenses such as parking tickets, speeding, not wearing seatbelts, and so forth. This puts the responsibility right back into the hands of the people who will benefit from a reduction overall in crime. The next place in the linkage between all this is the law and the lawyers, those making the laws and those hired to protect and defend people who have been accused of breaking the law. The lawyers need to understand how the mind of someone works who is out to get what they can from situations that should never be defendable in a court of law. These are the people who do not want to take any responsibility for themselves. One case we can think of are those who sue a restaurant over coffee that is too hot. The responsibility in this case is clearly their own. There are many other instances where this is happening. Lawyers need to attend a school of drama where they act out many different roles of being in business or offering services where they are sued by other lawyers in the school for things that will immediately seem ridiculous and point up where all this is leading. There needs to be much more control over lawyers by lawyers as to whether they take these shoddy cases. They are, of course, after the money these cases will bring. There needs to be a stopgap put into the rewards these lawsuits bring. The profession of law needs to police itself. The judicial system. How else could the scales ever be balanced if there were no law to the effect that what you sow, so shall you reap? If the courts of our land would employ this concept when handing out decisions, we could put a stop to crime in a few short years. Karma is a soul-instigated action, a spiritual fulfillment of conscience. Some judges are beginning to grasp this thought form as a concept whose time has not only come, but is way past due. To educate the lawyers and juries would be a big step, but the ones to whom the understanding of this principle is a spiritual necessity are the judges themselves. You will find some people with a spiritual mission working with those in the inner world, and also those working on a mission of changing the physical world. They both must rise up in vibratory rate at the same time. One is just as important as the other, and each individual will find exactly the right way for helping bring about the change.